Get the coolest mesh online at mesh.alfred.vip.
Hello everybody, I'm Alfred, and I'd like to talk about what people like Candace Owens are doing. You see, a lot of people on the right are now acting like people on the left. The left has their rhetoric they're wrong with. As the left has chosen that Donald Trump is wrong, that is the lane that they stick to. And that is the rhetoric that they stick to no matter what happens, no matter what Donald Trump does. That is wrong. Now, those of us on the right, we recognize that. But what about when it's the other way around and when it's someone on the left and there's an ideology we believe about them? Do we keep pushing that ideology and ignoring news that shows occasions where they act contrary? We see that's a problem. Now we have Candace Owens wants to push the message that USC is owned by Jews and that Jews are the problem of the world, that Jews control USC and all that nonsense. So she has now gone down this path of basically disinforming all her followers. All she's doing is lying. Everything that she puts forth is Trump is bad, Trump is trying to bomb Iran, Trump is trying to start a new war and, basically do what George Bush did with the weapons of mass destruction situation. But the reality is that Trump has de-escalated the situation, and that is what he was always doing. He has ended not only the Israel and Gaza conflict, but he has also ended and changed the entire status quo with US and Iran. And now there are now new negotiations on the table. So it is quite interesting that Candace keeps pushing this Jew nonsense, this anti-Jew nonsense. Look at this post that she retweeted. More than 10,000 Palestinians were killed and several others injured in an Israeli strike against civilians waiting for aid near the blah, blah, blah. And all these things, where are the proof of all these things? They just keep saying, oh, Palestinians are being killed, Palestinians are being killed, Palestinians are being killed. Where are the videos? Where are the proof? We see doctored videos, we see nonsense. But we have seen the very real strikes that Iran was making towards Israel, and we saw the people online celebrating, and all the people who, because they are Muslim, they are also supporting Iran. When someone says that they are of certain religions, and especially Muslim, it seems to give them leeway to do a lot of things. How does killing people help Allah? How does it help? Now, if you're a Muslim, didn't Allah create everybody, including Jews? Why did he create Jews if he wanted you to kill them, if he hates them so much? Why can't he take care of them himself? There are all these questions, that you need to ask yourself. Look at Candace here pushing. I can't understand why the voters in South Carolina keep re-electing this lunatic warmonger. She pushes Lindsey Graham, talking about regime change in Iran. However, she ignores that the Donald Trump who is the president is not about that. He's about peace. When you go to Donald Trump's page, you see something different at Truth Social. And there's the thing, a lot of people talk about Donald Trump, but they don't follow Donald Trump on Truth Social, which is crazy. If you are going to gossip about the guy and lie about the guy, at least try to follow up, because he is the only one who is giving you the news. This is somebody that stayed calm. He shot those missiles at the nuclear sites in Iran, destroying the nuclear sites, which is good, because if a madman like that, who doesn't care about that and who has the jihadist mentality, have nuclear bombs, he doesn't mind using them. It's different from Russia having nuclear weapons. People say, but Russia also have nuclear weapons. So, and Donald Trump is saying, or America is saying, let's not attack Russia because they have nukes. But they want to push the rhetoric and they make memes of it that, oh, Donald Trump said let's attack Iran because they have nukes. No, he's attacking Iran because they may soon have nukes. They don't have nukes yet, but they are working towards it. So he's trying to prevent it. And they know, regardless of what you see in the media, America knows that Russia is not a villain. Russia is not trying to start a nuclear war. But that is not the case with a jihadist leader. They don't mind world war because that is jihad, And to them, that is an honor, especially if they launch it and in the name of their belief and their religion. So that is a different thing. And he's trying to stop it. And by blowing up the nuclear sites, that's good. That creates a good layer of safety for the whole world. Because who is he going to use the nukes on? What country? Nukes is not something that's it is just going to take out a certain set of people. It's wiping out an entire country. And a country like US have nukes in retaliation. There are people that they are having nukes. We know what they are going to do with it. America having nukes is to show muscle and to be like, oh, we can bust around people, to basically police the world. That is what America uses its nukes for. It doesn't use its nukes to actually bomb people. It uses the nukes like, I'm carrying a nuke, don't mess with me. In the same way a policeman carries a gun. We all know policemen carry guns, at least in reasonable parts of the world, and they should. But it is you feel safe. You don't feel bothered when you see a policeman carrying a gun, because his gun is for the safety of the people around. However, if you see a thief, if you see someone with a ski mask on, moving funny, and they just bomb rush a place, and they just rush into a place and they are all carrying guns, you worry. It's the same gun that the policeman was carrying, but you see it differently, because this guy is going to use the guns to hurt. So there's a difference between a policeman having a gun and a criminal having a gun. There's a difference between America having nukes and a jihadist leader having nukes. And they also know, in the case of Russia having nukes, they know that Russia is having nukes to prevent itself from being bossed around by America, and by others it has nukes. Their leadership is not a threat to the world, and that is the reality. So America having nukes actually helps the world because it keeps certain people in check. Russia having nukes, good. It creates a situation where America cannot boss Russia. However, when it comes to a crazy person who doesn't mind dying and killing people in the name of his religion, that person having nukes, giving a suicide bomber nukes is crazy. It's a different ball game altogether. Just the same way a gun in the hand of a policeman is different from a gun in the hand of a thief. And it's different from a gun in the backpack of a woman who just wants to go to work safely, and maybe she travels in late at night or in a dangerous neighborhood. So we know that is for safety. So all this context matters, but it's still each of them carrying a gun, but it means something different. So each people carrying a nuke, we can't treat it like it's the same thing. So if we have someone like the leader of Iran shooting a nuke at any country, for example, America, imagine how many nukes go back. So we have the Middle East wiped out. We have part of America, if not all of America, wiped out. America have more nukes, so they are going to meet some missiles in the which still is going to be catastrophic damage, on the ground. So either way, it's bad news for everybody. For a nuclear war to start. That is millions of deaths, and it's not discriminating like, oh, they are going to kill only Christians or going to kill only Muslims. It's everybody. Everybody in that country is going. So what Trump has done, let's look at his posts. People and the mainstream media is lying, and they don't push out, they don't even talk about what he's posting. This is the president. He stayed calm when Iran retaliated and got all the information, and also acted behind the scenes, did what he did, was making moves behind the scenes, and made sure everything was clear before he started, giving info on the feedback of what is, happening, because I've been following very closely to see what he is saying. So, first of all, there are people who are talking about, Iran, the war is going to make oil prices rise. Trump just said to the Department of Energy, drill, baby, drill. And I mean now. You can see that here. Everyone keep oil prices down and watching you. you are playing right into the hands of the enemies. Don't do it. So this is what the president does, and he's thinking about the people, making sure that this does not become an opportunity for oil prices to go up internationally. And then telling his own Department of Energy in his own country, drill, you don't need to depend on foreign imported oil from Iran or from any other places that Iran sells to. So he's creating that safety for his own country. And the same thing with Nigeria. Nigeria is a country that has oil. So why are you importing oil? Why are you depending? A war outside Nigeria should not affect oil prices for Nigerians. As a matter of fact, it should make Nigerians richer. Because you can now sell more oil at a higher price. The problem is the evil people in charge of Nigeria that have so much money that are running Nigeria according to a format that makes the West richer than Nigerians. Because if, for example, in Nigeria, they place a ban and embargoes, but mostly a ban on importing things that can be produced in Nigeria. Place that ban one, empower manufacturing. Tell any company that wants to sell to Nigeria, come here and start your factory. Come into Nigeria and start your factory and employ Nigerians. Register your company as a Nigerian company. Let it be part of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Let it be part of the Nigerian economy. There are different types of business structures. Tell every conglomerate, when you come to Nigeria, you operate under our own business structure. You are registered with the Nigerian Stock Exchange so Nigerians can invest and have shares. You must employ Nigerians. Over 95 or 99% of your employees should be Nigerians. No need to import workers. We already have the manpower here. Employ Nigerians. You want to look at all these sales you people have been making, selling to Nigerians. Come here and make it here. And then part of that is that most of the things you make here must also be exported. So you are not just coming here to make and sell to Nigerians. You must also export what you make. Then give them favorable prices, give them favorable tax advantages to make it more beautiful and palatable. These companies will come. Handle the issue of insecurity. And the insecurity issue is simple. Number one, all the details and all the information that you have gathered already on all the existing terrorists, get all of them and lock them up. Because there's more than enough information that the security personnel has gathered on all the people that are so-called bandits and unknown gunmen. Even look at how they are called, bandits, unknown gunmen. What kind of name is that? It shows you that the government wants to cover it up. You don't even want to call them terrorists. You don't even want to identify a commonality that they have. For example, radical Islam, and then call it what it is. So all the radical Islamics in Nigeria, all the violent militant radical Islamists, gather them up and lock them up. It's that simple. And there will be peace. In addition to that, you can create, let the police stations start working and let them work usefully. Let them be people who are no longer a liability to the society, no longer people that are taking bribes. Increase their salaries, give them training, fire all the incompetent ones, make it worthwhile for young people to join the police force, and give them training so that they can be SWAT level, USA SWAT level, so that there will be a police department over every region. Put out the map of Nigeria. Make sure that the police can reach anywhere on the map from certain police station or police posts locations. Make sure that the police can reach anywhere on the map in less than 3 minutes. No matter where it is, in every village, let there be an outpost. And let there all be an open channel of communication internationally that can bring in more troops. So if there is a crisis in one area, in less than 3 minutes, the police have already gone there, and then more are coming. Let there be helicopters that can bring in more troops. There's a lot of money to buy helicopters that can fly more troops to no matter where it is in Nigeria. In less than 5 minutes, they will be there. Then there will be no insurgency. Nobody will be able to run into any place. And then also the setting of security. Let it be, provisions for people to build, equipments like better gates, better burglary pools, and then we bring in the discussion of um, firearm and self-protection. Why don't people have self-protection? When it comes to the area of celebrities moving around with um, military, which is not supposed to be, you know, in the case of the celebrities moving around with the Mopol and the police who are supposed to be protecting everybody, let there be security agencies, private security agencies that are licensed to carry guns and are basically trained and are working hand in hand with the police. And that, that also will have that rapport and communication. So the celebrity can happily pay their private security that will be judiciously and accurately protecting them. Because if you remove security altogether from the celebrities, you take away a lot from the economy. Because the super celebrities are adding so much to the economy. And they are, a lot of times, they are the reason for tourism. The musicians, the super popular pastors, that have all this security, they are bringing a lot of tourism. When a pastor holds a crusade, they are bringing so much economically to the place. For example, imagine, like I remember, Pastor Chris holding a crusade in Port Harcourt, for example. 2.5 million people showed up. 2.5 million people showed up. What does that do to the whole of Port Harcourt? The economy. Imagine all the hotels now have business. People will need to stay there, for the program. All the restaurants have businesses. All, the people that come and see business opportunities and invest. So there are so many activities that are around it that people need to understand. It's just like, with Pastor Chris Hailing School, or, when Bishop T.B. Joshua was, alive. People were criticizing him, but they did not look. When you look at the Nigerian airports, what is the major reason for people visiting Nigeria? Of course, they will ask, business or pleasure. Some people will say pleasure and all of that. But the reality is that Nigeria does not have anything for people to see. People that can go to Disneyland, can go to Serengeti, that can go to Niagara Falls and all of that. People who are travelers don't have anything that Nigeria is calling them to see, except the miracle preachers and miracle meetings. So those people are institutions themselves. They are tourist attractions. So when you fight against these big preachers that are holding such large crusades, they are the reason for tourism. There's no other reason for anybody to come to Nigeria. Nigeria has nothing that other people don't have in more than above abundance. So these are measures that can be made to make Nigeria safe. When it comes to the raw materials in Nigeria, simple, make it pop and plain. Create the law that stops the raw materials, any raw materials from Nigeria being exported. Let the finished goods be processed here and sent there. Because what is happening is that Africa is a hotbed. Africa is the home of all the raw materials of the world. And one of the reasons why Africa is structured to be poor is that Africa exports its raw materials because those are its resources, that is its money. It exports it to another country that doesn't have as much raw materials, but then they process it and create products that they now sell back to Africans at 3 times, 10 times over. So now Africa is in debt. Africa is now owing. Africa now has to come up with paper money or dollar that only the white man or America or whatever foreign country has the legal right to print. Africa now has to buy it by exchanging services or raw materials, so getting into debt, applying for loans to get that paper, to now pay for what was originally brought out of Africa. However, if Africans, if Africa had taken that raw materials itself and then created the products and then used those products for itself and also sold the products to other nations, and to other continents, Africa will never be broke. Africa will not be in debt. It is other countries and nations that will be in debt to African nations. It's that simple. But the structure is all different. The structure is all wrong. It's structured so that Africa will send out its gold, its diamonds, its cocoa, its oil. Then it will now be refined in an oil refinery and now sold for 10 times the price to Africans. And now Africans who need oil for their cars are now 10 times in debt. Africans can't afford oil. But the oil came from you. It came from your land. It's still gotten from you. The jewelry, the cotton that used to make the expensive Gucci and Gabbana and all the dresses, all those things available in Africa. Why don't you tell the Gucci and the whatever and all the luxury brands, come here, make your products here. But African leaders, because they are paid to maintain the structure that is built to keep the Africa as a whole in poverty, because they are making a lot of money, so they keep on running with it and acting like if it's okay. But it is simple to solve. The problem is simple to solve. Very simple to solve. And I've told you how. Now, back to, Trump's tweets. You see, to the Department of Energy, Joe, if Africa was, look at the issue with Dangote, the Dangote refinery. Look at all the trouble he's going through. There should actually be more Dangotes, more people who are encouraged to do what he's doing, to build refineries so that Nigeria doesn't need to import. But they are fighting. Can you imagine? They are fighting for importing. When you are fighting you are fighting Dangote so that you can import oil. Who is it for the good of? It is for the good of the Western world. So imagine all the big rich men that are powerful enough to be fighting Dangote. They are fighting for the good of the wealth, the enriching of the Western civilizations and for colonialists, not for Africa. Why don't they start their own refinery? How many refineries have they said they will give billions upon billions and it never works? You know why it never works? Because they want to keep the importation in play. It is not like if they do not see a way to actually bring forth, a working situation where the refineries work. Because even if you say that they may not be smart enough to do what Dangote has done, can they consult Dangote and ask him for advice? So look at the people that helped him out, or the staff who helped him build his refinery that is working, and then apply that to the refineries that are not functioning. And we have a situation where there are multiple refineries in Nigeria that are actually turning the crude oil that is drilled from Nigeria into oil. So there will be more than enough for Nigerians, and Nigerians do not need to import oil, and it will be cheap for Nigerians. Actually, Nigerians will not have so much that they will have to sell, and they can sell for high price. So when there is situations, threat of war with oil nations and oil prices going up, it will actually be making Nigeria richer. That is the way it should be. But because of certain evil people who are paid to make sure that colonialists and the World Economic Forum and the World Bank people and all of that are constantly and forever richer than Nigerians. That is why the situation is what it is. So when you look at Trump's tweets, we see on Truth Social, we see that now look at what he said. Congratulations to everyone. It's been fully agreed between Israel and Iran. This is just 3 hours ago. It's been fully agreed between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now. So 3 hours have already gone. When Israel and Iran would wound down complete their in-process final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end of the 12-day war will be saluted by the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it would. And I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should have been called a 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America, and God bless the world. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. So you see where things are now. This man basically ended it. And not by acting like a coward, because when it comes to those missiles he sent to the nuclear site, it was important. Number one, to show strength. Number two, to take away the threat of it escalating to nuclear warfare. So that is off the table. And because America has all the muscle, America is the police, America has the nukes, and they are not using it. They are just using it to maintain their policing status. We can now relax. As opposed to if Iran had the nukes, because they are just going to send the nukes straight to Israel, that Israel direction, and it will kill all the so-called Palestinians that they say they are trying to protect, because the nuke is not going to discriminate. It's not just going to destroy Israel, it's going to destroy all of the so-called Palestine and also part of Egypt and bordering nations. And that will now bring another problem. Because now we will now have people of those other Muslim nations who will die, and they will not smile at Iran that say, after all, you killed Israel. You wiped out Israel, you blew Israel off the map. No, they are going to retaliate, which will keep escalating. So we thank God that the thing has stopped. All because of Trump. But does Trump get credit? Does Trump get praise? No. Rather, they will ignore this and keep on pushing lies. And it's because of this hyping up that has caused a lot of the problem. It's because of all this hyping up and all this Trump derangement syndrome in the mainstream media that we see the riots on the streets. We see a lot of the opposition to a lot of the great and wonderful things that Trump has done. So far, we give God praise, for how things have turned out. And we need to be aware of people like, Candace, who is still pushing, even now, still pushing her rhetoric that, Trump wants to start a new war. And Trump wants to send troops to Iran. He wants to send U.S. troops to Iran, just like George Bush, did with the weapons of mass destruction situation. Blah, 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 blah. Look at where it is. Is this the person that wants to send troops to Iran? If it was somebody else, for shooting a military base in Qatar, that person would have gone all out. But you can see how Trump stood his ground and is a man of peace. And you can see his response to that. He actually said that, in that situation, there were no deaths. There were no U.S. Citizens were killed. You see, this is the post I'm talking about. Iran has officially responded to the obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response, which we expected, and we have effectively countered. There have been 14 missile fires, 13 were knocked down, and 1 was set free. You see, but look at how the mainstream media puts it, like if they just bastardized and completely destroyed the US bases. No. Out of the 14 missile fires, 13 were destroyed in the sky. The US Army shot them down. And only 1 was set free. We can see here, only 1 made it through because it was headed to a non-threatening direction. I am pleased to report that no Americans were harmed and hardly any damage was done. Most importantly, they've gotten it out of their system. Trump is funny. And there will hopefully be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost. which is a funny job, because he was tweeting that they will do, the Iranian leader who calls himself supreme leader, which people can see that is egotistical on the highest level. That is megalomaniacal. That is Adolf Hitler level megalomaniacal. Why will you refer to yourself as the supreme leader? That is part of your title. Anyway, he was saying what he was going to do, unlike Trump that keeps quiet. He talks when it's necessary, and then most of the time when it's strategic to keep quiet, he keeps quiet, because this is a man who has made his money in business and understand negotiations and understand people. So he keeps quiet and does not tell you what he's planning, when it's strategic and it's best to do that. So the other guy was saying everything he was going to do online. So that is what Trump is, referring here. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice. Which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. Perhaps Iran can now proceed to peace and harmony in the region, and I will enthusiastically encourage Israel to do the same. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This was before, Now, of course, I read to you the latest thing that they have all agreed, to do, So, all things being equal, that's the direction things will go in. And of course, the Emma of Qatar, helped Trump. And we can see some Muslims online that were dissing the Emma of Qatar, for helping Iran, for helping America. But that is towards peace, which Trump has done. Is Trump going to get a reputation for going towards peace? Because he could easily go towards war and monetize war. This is the same left and the same mainstream media that was pushing the war in Russia and was giving Ukraine unlimited weapons and saying, oh, Zelensky, take this more, take this billions, giving them, pushing that war. Why is it okay for them to push that war? Now it's like, oh, this and that. Oh, Trump should be impeached for, striking, conducting a military strike against Iran. He didn't kill anybody. He just destroyed their ability to build a nuclear capacity, which is to the detriment of the world. See the thank you he wrote to the Emir of Qatar. I would like to thank the highly respected Emir of Qatar for all that he has done in seeking peace for the region. Regarding the attack today at the American base in Qatar, I am pleased to report that in addition to no Americans being killed or wounded, very importantly, there have also been no Qatars killed or wounded. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So you see that. This is what we call true presidential leadership, and this is what we call somebody who is not interested in war. This is what we call somebody who is not interested in sending U.S. troops into battle. But, the people, even some people on the right, like the Candace Owens, we want to go and push lies and disinformation to push the narrative of, oh, look at this guy, he's like Bush, he wants war, blah, blah, blah. But we have seen where the situation has ended. We now see that there's now peace on the horizon, so an end to all the shooting, the missiles, and all of that. Think about all the lives that have been saved, thanks to Trump's action. Imagine if it was Biden that doesn't know his left from his right, that is shaking hands with the air, talking about, kids sitting on his lap and sniffing the two kids and all of that. Imagine if it was Biden in power. And this is the nonsense that Biden created. A lot of people forget that. When you look at the attack on October 7th, that started all this, the attack on October 7th on Israel, where, Hamas went and, were burning, trapping Israelis and, burning them alive and all of that on October 7th. That was something that happened immediately after, or a few weeks after Biden released funds in a frozen accounts, of Iran. He was lifting sanctions on Iran. And Trump said, don't do it. Trump was not president. He said, don't do it. He was under all the cases, because these leftists are people of no honor and integrity. So they brought all kinds of fraudulent cases to slap all kinds of felonies on Trump because of how indecent and criminal they are. All the unfair cases and all of that. So Trump was going through that, but he said, look, don't lift the sanctions. But it was after lifting the sanctions that Iran now had the resources. Iran now went ahead to sponsor Hamas during that October 7th stuff. which set all this thing in motion. It led to Israel going back, into so-called Palestine, and then that's drama happened. All the shooting and fighting and the war started. In the Middle East, it reignited the war that Trump had previously calmed in his administration before Biden stepped in. So this is the mess that Biden and Kamala created. But people have short-term memory and they listen to lies of the mainstream media. They don't look into things for themselves. Look into situations for yourself. Look at how things have de-escalated. But the mainstream media will still be pushing, oh, Trump is bad, Trump this, oh, this and that. They won't cover that, oh, things have cooled down. So they are still putting fear in people's minds and in people's hearts and lying to people that, oh, the whole world is on the verge of war because of Trump. No, it's actually the reverse taking place. But this is what the mainstream media does. And this is also why I emphasize, Christians should own the media. And I'm even surprised at Trump, because what do you expect when the media is owned by the devil and the world and the globalists and the leftists? They have showed you time and time again that they will lie and lie and lie and lie. They have no integrity. They don't have journalists. All they have is people who will lie for their agenda. So the news story will be what their boss at the top of the food chain, who owns the TV stations and the news media, wants them to say. And it's often the George Soros types, and the globalist people. Because keep in mind, majority of the world is owned by 1% of the people. And companies like BlackRock and Vanguard own majority of everything. They are the major shareholders. So whatever direction, if they want to say, let men and men be having sex and getting married, because they control and they own the schools, they own the politicians, because they are the ones sponsoring a lot of the politicians. For a politician to get into office, they need sponsors, they need backups, they need financiers. What's in it for the financiers? So for so much to go on, money is needed. And the people who control and have so much money will put people that will do their bidding and head towards their agenda. So this is why it's important for Christians to take the 7 mountains and beyond. We must take the media. If we do not control the media, we will be subject to these kinds of nonsense. Imagine all the peace that would have been in the world, if Christians own the media, the news. What we have is devils, people who hate Christianity, people who hate God, controlling and owning the media. It's sad. That being said, make sure you check out Alfred.vip for more. Thank you and God bless you.
Say this prayer audibly if you have not given your heart to Jesus Christ. Dear God, I believe in my heart that Jesus Christ, the Son of God, came, died, and was raised from the dead to save me. I confess Him, Lord, over my life and ask you to give me your Holy Spirit to live within me. I receive your Spirit by faith and thank you for I am now born again. In Jesus' name, amen. If you just prayed that prayer, congratulations, you're now a Christian. Go to Alfred.vip and get resources that will help you with your work with God.